Cruising to Alaska is breathtaking. From the wildlife to the majestic mountains, and if you're looking to get just a taste of what Alaska can offer, a cruise might be the best option for you. But there are still some things to consider, and before you pick your itinerary and set sail, let's go over them. If you're like us and just can't quite relax while on vacation and need to check your email or do some work, you won't find much Wi-Fi in the last frontier. Alaska cruises are notorious for terrible connectivity at sea, and this is based on many factors, most of which the cruise lines actually have little control over. The issue is only exacerbated by the mountains that surround us. And while in port, expect to get some decent cellular reception in the city centers. And if you really need Wi-Fi, most restaurants, bars, and even some shops offer free Wi-Fi for you to use. But make sure you buy something, because after all, the Wi-Fi is not free for them either. So, you know, share the love. In all honesty though, when we're talking about a vacation that should be relaxing, this is one of them. If there's ever a time to put your phone down and just embrace the scenery around you, it's an Alaska cruise. The mountains and glaciers and wildlife can pass by unnoticed if all you're doing is worrying about getting those Snapchats sent to your friends. Speaking of wildlife going unnoticed, if I ask you to just close your eyes and think about Alaska for a minute, what's the one animal that immediately comes to mind? I bet you probably would be thinking of a great big brown bear. I do too, but unfortunately, prepare yourself, you probably won't see one. Now, it might be hard to believe, but most of the inner passage is pretty steep, with not much to really entice bears to just randomly run around and wave at you from the mountainside. While on our cruise, we passed a low-lying area that I thought would be absolutely perfect to see a bear or a moose, deer, something. But guess what? I saw a whole lot of nothing. I can't believe there's nothing out there at all. No deer. So keep your eyes peeled for eagles, whales, orcas, seals, and just about anything else. Bear sightings are pretty rare when cruising, because remember, you're only really seeing a tiny little sliver of Alaska. Now, hopefully you have done some research or use a travel agency like Gold Gal Getaways to help plan your perfect trip to Alaska. But if you think you found that perfect time, the perfect week, think again. Alaska sailings have a seasonal run, which is normally May to October. And you might as well close your eyes and throw a dart at the wall for the week and month you're going to sail. Weather is exceptionally unpredictable. From snow, rain, heat, fog, you name it, and it could probably happen while you're sailing. Each week can literally be as different as night and day. So while we had an awesome week of sailing in the middle of July, the following week could have been cold and miserable, hot and unbearable. The weeks before leading up to our cruise, it was cold and miserable with lots of fog and lots of rain and really rough seas. My suggestion for this is just to simply understand that on an Alaska cruise, you could see very little, experience very rough seas. You could still have very calm seas and exceptional weather. Most mornings as we were sailing into port, you couldn't see the mountains. But later in the day, the clouds would clear and you'd get to see this awesome view of the ranges. Our whole week of sailing, it rained only once in port, and that was in Juneau. And it didn't even start until later in the evening. So just remember that just because you saw it looking beautiful here on YouTube doesn't mean you're going to get the same thing while sailing. Now you might be saying, well, what should I pack? How do I pack? You know, what's the best way to plan for this stuff? And you might want to say, I'm going to plan for all of it. I better pack everything. Well, I wouldn't go that far. The next time that we cruise to Alaska, we will definitely pack less. A good winter coat is essential if you're planning to do glacier activities or dog sledding, but again, you could get away with layering a sweatshirt and long sleeves or even long johns. I would bring a light rain shell because it probably will rain to keep you dry, but for the most part, a couple of shorts, pants, mix of tees and long sleeves should really be sufficient for your journey. And if you're going at the beginning of or the end of the season, in May or October, you may want to pack a little bit more on the warmer side. Now, heading into port, let's talk about excursions. These excursions can be pretty costly. sometimes 30 to 50% more expensive than their Caribbean counterparts. For example, on our first stop in Ketchikan, we paid $300 for what we thought would be a more scenic, wildlife-focused photography tour. But instead we received something that was far more cultural and based on smartphone photography. Do your research as much as you can before choosing an excursion to do. And if you want to see what we've done, you can go back through this playlist of our videos and see the excursions that we did. Most of these excursions will book out very, very early. Most at a year out. So be ready when you start planning. And understand that if you're late to the game in planning, you might not get to do very much at all. Or at least not what you wanted to do. Anything that specifically states glacier, wildlife, dog sleds, Alaskan king crab tends to go pretty quick. While other tours or excursions, like the Lumberjacks in Ketchikan, can be purchased in port at a cheaper cost than buying it through the cruise line. Now we've covered a lot so far, but you might be saying, Josh, what about picking a ship? How do I do that? There's so many. And that's a great question. And for all of our Disney fans out there, you probably want to sail on the Disney Wonder. However, not all ships are designed to be in cold water, and the Disney Wonder is one of them. This ship was specifically made for warmer climates, so all the pools, outdoor viewing areas, they're all exposed to the cold crosswinds of Alaska, which doesn't really make for a great sightseeing Alaskan cruise, especially as you're maneuvering the inner passage and getting up in to see those glaciers. If you're looking to have some time relaxing in the pool without the worry of freezing to death, walking back to your room, a ship like Royal Caribbean's Ovation of the Seas is perfect. Most of the viewing and pool areas are encased in glass, so it stays warm and you can still get some really great views of what's happening outside. The ship is also much larger, making its ability to handle those rough seas much easier. So all in all, those are some things that you should consider. And those are things that we're going to consider the next time that we go. So that, you know, I'm not having my hopes up to see a bear the whole time. But hey, you know what? We had a fantastic time. Alaska is beautiful and we cannot wait to do another one here in the future. So let us know if you have done one of these spectacular, beautiful, majestic cruises to Alaska. And we'll see you all in the next one.